in those lower management roles, the ones that are not in the executive, there's randomization and popular vote. So you get popular vote, you get nominate. There's randomization and nomination. So there's nomination, whether it's self-nomination or other people nominating, and then from that nomination, a not a nomination, and then there's a randomization. And from the randomization, oh yeah, there should also be a polygraph test. So to make sure that there's no one who's a polygraph test every 6 months. So no one is corrupt or doing bad things in the company. So like 6 months, the polygraph test to make sure that everyone is working, or everyone is not being corrupt. So yeah, and but the management role is the lower management role is nomination and randomization. The executive management role and CEO or managing director, it's popular vote. There's no randomization for the executive roles. To be the executive of a field, you have to get popular vote. To be executive of a Oh yeah, you have to get popular vote after you have done 4 years. Like you must have 4 years work experience in the company. So you are not like you are not a newcomer. So you are not someone who comes in yesterday and then becomes an executive. You have to get at least 4 years work experience in the company, and then you can be an executive. For CEO, managing director, you have to be among the executive executive roles, and then from executive roles you can get a popular vote to be the CEO or managing director. For you to be a lower phase or lower phase manager or manager who's not in the executive, you have to have at least 2 years. At least 2 years. Like after 2 years, there's a randomization. Every 2 years, randomization, like a new selection. So for lower phase management, for lower phase roles, lower phase management, every every 2 years there's a randomization of managers and a randomized selection of managers. For executive roles, there are 4 years, 4 years not random, 4 years popular vote for a new manager, for a new executive. For lower phase, 2 years for a new manager, for a new for a new lower phase manager. So when a manager is rotated, whether it's a lower phase or executive phase, when a manager is, whether it's a CEO, lower phase manager, or a technical manager, or a research manager, or whatever manager, if someone is rotated, the rotation can move like from person can move from being a worker or from being a technical work or research work into management work. If you're moving from management worker, you can move from management worker, you move to back to technical worker or research work. Like you don't become a manager and then you switch off to another management role. No. You become a manager and then you go back to being a technical worker or a researcher. But you don't repeat the same job again and again. You don't stay in the same job for like consecutive. You don't stay in the same job consecutive. You rotate. You become a manager. If you don't make it to become a CEO or managing director, if you're not selected, if you don't win the popular popular vote or popular nomination for being the managing director or the CEO, you go back to being a technical worker, or a research worker. So the salary of any worker within the company, within the cooperative, is- should be like it should be the average of all the workers within the company. Like the okay, the there should be like, okay, after tax has been paid, like the profit has been made, and then the tax money is paid, then the money that is left, or there's 50%. Okay, 50%. Okay, the money get profit. The cooperative gets profit. From the profit, tax is paid. From the money that is left, the remainder of the money is split in half. 50% goes to the company to maintain the cooperative, to maintain the machines or tools, or to buy new tools, or to buy new to maintain the equipment, and or to build new things, to build new houses, build whatever. But whatever remainder, the money that stays, 50% goes to a company, and oh yeah, and also to pay the other investors. So the company has investors, but the investors are local, the workers within the company. So 50% goes to paying for equipment, paying for buildings, paying for rent, paying for whatever, and then the other percentage of money goes to, no, no percentage. The other money within that 50% goes to paying the investor workers, the workers who invested in the company, the workers who are investing in the company, and then that's it. Then the other 50% of the of of the remainder, it goes to as a salary to all workers. So it's gonna be the 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 50%. Okay, the 50% goes to equipment and everything to maintain the company. The other 50% goes to salary of workers. So all the workers who worked or who are working, there's a there'll be the money divided by average by the number of workers. So the average is for the workers. I don't know how to explain it, but 50% goes to maintaining, 50% to salaries. So the other 50%, uh, the other the 50% which should go to maintaining the company, maintaining equipment, should a small percentage of it to go to paying the workers who invest in the company. Then the other 50% is completely for salaries, the salary of workers. So from that salary of workers, the two criteria that should be looked into. The salary should be based on the level of education the person is in, as well as work hours. So if a person has done work 8 hours every day, for all the salaries are paid weekly. Yeah. The salaries are paid weekly; they're not paid monthly or yearly. Like every week, every Monday salary, or every Sunday salary, or wages. I don't know, wages or salary, whichever one. But every week, the money goes to workers. So the criteria is 8 hours and education level. So for 8 hours, if you've done 8 hours of work every day, so the salary, complete salary goes for that 8 hours, as well as education level. So the education level is the ten education levels. So there's NQF, there's level one. For level one, is people who have foundation phase education. Level two, people with intermediate phase education. Level three, people with what do you know, okay. Level one, it's grade R. It's grade R. Level two, grade three. Level four, it's grade six education. No, grade nine education. Yeah. Grade nine education. Level two is grade six education. Level four, it's grade 12 education. Level five, it's higher certificate. So level 5 it's higher certificate. Level 6 is a diploma from university or college, I think college, but NQF6 is level 6. NQF7, level 7, so it's a bachelor degree or advanced degree, but NQF or whatever, NQF7. Level 8 is NQF 8 level education, so it's honors or degree with NQF level 8. NQF level 5, level 5 is NQF, yeah. Level 9 is NQF 9, level 10. Okay, so all those levels are going to be the ones that account for the salary of workers. So the workers with the lower phase are gonna with lower levels will get lower salaries. The ones with highest levels get higher salaries. So each level accounts for the salary of towards workers, because the company has to invest in skills, or it should put the cooperative has to focus on skills, like to encourage skills or to hire people with skills. So the more the education, the more the skills, or the more the benefit from the company because of your skills. So for each NQF level, there's a there's a reward. Yeah, the reason why we show the salary is based on two criteria, which is the education level as well as the 8 hours, is we, because we need to ensure that there is fairness. I think, okay, I don't know, but education matters as well as the working. So education and the work, the skills and the working. So the there could be people who will be complaining about the difference between engineers, doctors, and maybe the STEM modules and and the STEM careers and artistic careers, that they are not they shouldn't get the same salaries because the STEM careers are difficult than the artistic careers. But it's important to acknowledge that salaries, or profits don't necessarily are determined. Profits aren't necessarily determined by how hard a career is, or how how do you say, not necessarily determined by the hardness. I think because artists and entertainers could get more salaries than people who have PhDs. See, like maybe a YouTube artist can get big salaries, while a PhD person is poor or does not have that much money. So, like the salary should not the the difficulty of the career should not dictate the salary, but instead the commitment to education, like even if it's education which is not demanding, like you see, but uh, so the salaries should okay. The salary should not be determined by the difficultness of the education, but instead by how valuable or how important it is to a society. Like how, because people can invest can people can get more investment. More people or consumers can commit to investing towards people who have education which is not difficult. You see, like YouTubers or something, like they get huge salaries, but People who can have PhDs might not get that, or people who might have hard degrees might not get that high salaries. Like the actors, they have high salaries. The actors and entertainers. So like, why you should focus on why should so why the other way to think about it as to why it doesn't really matter is because if the company does not see the importance of hiring those relevant, or if those people aren't working, or aren't uh, there's no reason to hire them, right? There's no problem to that they will solve, or there's no need for them, there's no need for entertainment from them. Like, if you maybe you're hiring a artist, if you're hiring, if the cooperative is hiring, and then there's the people who are actor who are artists, and then there are people who are doctors, that the cooperative will have to hire the people who are useful, or people who have importance, or who will be people who will be working during the work, because there will have to be rotation. Like everyone will have to go through rotation. So if if there's no process of rotation, or there's no okay, like the workers in the company, in the cooperative, all have duties. Listen. So the workers who maybe are useless, you see, like they don't work, or they there's no problem, there's no duty for them. Like they are just they no longer serve a purpose. You see, those workers could be laid off or fired because there's no duty for them now. So so the importance of not really okay. The reason why I say it's not really necessary to highlight that one career is harder than the other, or that there should be more salaries for doctors or engineers, or people who are STEM educated than artists or other people who are not in STEM, is because the the careers which are necessary will remain regardless of the conditions, or what it's like, what society is like, what the economy is like, or something. But they will remain regardless. So the careers that are important will remain. The ones that are not important will fluctuate. So if the careers are related to art, and then there's no need for art, then those workers will be laid off, because there's no duty for them now. They're just they're just doing nothing, or they're not working. You see. So if it's so the default, I think it's just unnecessary to complicate the salaries by making statements that the hardest careers should be those that get paid more. Like, just pay people based on the level of skills, or how proficient or exceptional they are. Because if you get PhD or get higher degree, like you're proficient in that skill. So just higher, it's just 8 hours in the education level. If people have PhDs, then they are exceptional in those skills. If people have lower degrees, they're still good there, you see. But the level of salary is 8 hours and education level. It's not how hard education is, or how it's how important if the company the cooperative will 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 hire people, or will keep people who are useful, like the people who are solving problems, or people who, who are solving problems, because the profit will be made from solving problems, or the society will improve from solving problems being solved. So if entertainment is not solving problems, then the entertainers will be laid off. You see. or if the entertainers have no use, like they there's no value in entertainment anymore. Like people are focused on maybe aid, maybe there's focus on health or something. So if entertainers are no longer useful, then they either have to change course or to find a new way to make entertainment valuable, or they have to they have to find a new career. So, but I don't think it should be should there should be a stress about the the, the hardness of education, just the importance of the skill. Like if you have the qualification level or NQF level or level of education, like if you have PhD, you're proficient, you're exceptional in the skill, you're the best, you have the best skill, or you're educated in that skill, like you you're proficient in that skill. So that's what I think should matter. Like it's the 8 hours and the level of education. Like the work experience does not matter to the salaries. The work experience matters to management. Like if you want to be a manager, you have work experience. Like the management does not get external salaries or better salaries or something. Like the salary is just two criteria is education level and work hours. So what is it, the management gets the same salary as the research workers and technical workers. There's no difference in salaries. There's only difference in management. Like the manager will have to be the one that enforces discipline, so as to workers to not be like there's no laziness or uncommitment to working or people just not working, but the management gets the same salary as workers and everyone else. The management just enforces and directs and do management things, but the salary of work salary of all workers the same, except if you no, it's not the same. The salary of workers is based on education and education level and 8 hours and the investment. If workers are the ones, if some workers have invested and other workers do not invest, the workers who invested will get uh, percentage profit from the money which was from the money which was invested from the money from the section which was used to to maintain equipment. I don't know how to explain it more, but there should be if workers invest, they should get a small portion of profit for their investment, and but the salary is based on level of education and 8 hours. So if a worker is sick or is absent during a day of work, the worker has to inform or report that he or she or they will not make it to work or there's some problem, so that they knew there should be a replacement for that work. So when a worker is being replaced, the salary that should have gone to the worker which is sick or worker which is absent, that salary goes to the worker who is working, who is replacing that work. So if worker A is absent, worker B works for worker A or does the duties of worker A, then worker B will get a portion of the salary from worker A, as in the worker was absent during that day. So a portion of that profit should go to worker B instead of the salary that's going to worker A, as in the other worker did not do 8 hours. So 8 hours must be accounted for, and the worker B was so worker B was the one who was doing the 8 hours for worker A. So worker B should get the portion of that salary for that 8 hours he or she or they did for uh, yeah. But I think mainly the reason why I mean, this video is about 1 hour 12 minutes. But the initial thing I wanted to say, but I just went out. The initial thing I want to say is that the the uh, socialist movement or socialist development or issues or points, should I say, they mainly revolve around activism. Like it's always calling out people or putting pressure towards the government or individuals to solve problems instead of like focusing on developing systems and developing institutions. So by by developing systems, I mean the way in which things work. You see, like the way in which money is printed and money flows and all of that stuff. Those things should be those things should like the socialist movement should not only focus on like guilt tripping people or making people guilty about things and then expect people to change or make things bad. Like the socialist movement should focus on building institutions. The institutions should be controlled by workers as well as building uh, systems. The systems should also be controlled by workers. Like the systems, the institutions could be the police. Like the police should be the ones that control policing or ensure that the safety of the community or safety of the of the state or safety of everyone in the country should be should be administered by the police instead of like bourgeoisie coming in and putting lobby money or lobbying for police to investigate their agendas or to do their bidding. So the workers should be the one that administer their own work. It's like you know, like and mainly like to develop systems is to develop things that society runs by. So you see, and also develop institutions. So the institutions could be banks or the bartering system or bartering institutions or whatever. But you should focus on instead of just focusing on rhetoric or focusing on talking about things. They should focus on building things like building systems and building institutions. So the, the stuff that I think are more relevant, are more important are Soviets and worker cooperative. The Soviets can be one that manage the state instead of political parties or bourgeoisie lobby groups, the bourgeoisie lobbies. So it could be the Soviets which are run by Soviets which are run by workers. You see, the the Soviets, as I explained, that the election comes from workers, the relevant workers, they elect the relevant leaders or relevant executives or relevant administrators. So for each policy, the policies which should be introduced, the policies which are long term, maybe the policies which are longer than 5 years, those policies should be voted on by everyone who is relevant to that policy. If it's a policy relevant to education, then that policy should be voted on by everyone. If that policy is relevant to education for more than 5 years, everyone should vote on it. If a policy is everyone who is relevant to education or who works in education should vote on it. If a policy if a policy is relevant to education, but it's for lower than 5 years, or it's 5 years or lower than 5 years, then that policy should be voted on by representatives of uh, of the workers, as in the people in parliament who are relevant to education can vote on that policy, like the local Soviet, the national Soviet, the provincial Soviet, can the work the representatives or the administrators can vote on that policy. But if it's a policy for more than 5 years, then every worker who is relevant to that policy should vote on it. If a policy is a general policy, like that, the policy is not centered around a industry, then that policy it's a general policy. Then everyone should vote on it, whether someone who is a worker or is not a worker. If it's just a policy which is general, then everyone should vote on it. But again, the policies are administered by the Soviet, or they are written by the Soviet by the administrators in the Soviet, like the people that write up these things, the people that write up the policies are people in the Soviet, as in no one from outside or no one is lobbying for a policy. You see, the policy comes from within the Soviet or comes from workers. So yeah, uh, uh, yeah. So if it's a policy which is general, everyone votes for it. If it if it's a policy which is general for more than 5 years, everyone votes on it. Everyone in the country is allowed to vote for it. If it's a policy lower than 5 years, but it's a general policy, then everyone in the Soviet, everyone local Soviet, provincial Soviet, national Soviet votes on it. If it's a policy relevant to industry, people relevant. If it's a policy relevant to industry for more than 5 years, everyone relevant to that industry must vote is allowed to vote for it. If it's a policy relevant to industry lower than 5 years, representatives of of each Soviet, the relevant representatives will be the one that vote for it instead of like everyone voted for it, or or people who don't work in that industry. So a relevant industry should should vote for relevant policies if the policies are pointing to a particular industry and it's more than 5 years. So yeah, what else? Oh yeah, the also the presidency or the triumvirate presidency should be voted on as a popular vote instead of randomization. So popular vote is everyone in the country votes for the president. The presidency come from the ministers. Like the president can't be someone who was not in the Soviet or in the executive role. In order for a person to be the executive or in order for someone to be the presidency, to be in the presidency, someone has to be that person has to be in the in the in the ministerial roles. In order for someone to be in the admin, in order for someone to be in the ministerial roles, someone has to be in the Soviet or has to be within the Soviet and to be working in the Soviet. So if you want to be a minister, you have to be working. You have to be an executive in the Soviet, like in any Soviet, whether it's a local Soviet or provincial Soviet. You could either be a minister or a councillor in a local Soviet, or a minister in a provincial Soviet, or, or a person who is working in government official roles in a in national government. But you have to be someone who's working for government in an executive role, or administerial roles before you go into minister of something. So, like you have to be administrating at a lower phase, like local level or provincial level, before you can become national minister. Then from national minister, you can become president. You see, you don't just keep above the minister. You have to work within administrative role at local level or provincial level. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a provincial administrator, or you don't have to be a provincial administrator to be minister or to be national minister. You can be local administrator and then get nominated into minister of or you can get nominated to national minister from local government or local Soviet. So a local Soviet has the main is councillor roles or lower phase minister roles, which are you could have the local Soviet could have the local administrators or the local executive, which are in charge of different industries at a local level. And then there's a chairman. The chairman will handle, will oversee the, the executives of that local Soviet. And also in the provincial Soviet, the chairman of the provincial Soviet will oversee the executives of the of the provincial Soviet, as well as oversee the local Soviets as well. Like the, the local Soviets depends on approval from provincial Soviet, and provincial Soviets depends on approval from national Soviet. Like each Soviet oversees the lower Soviets. So the the chairman of the chairman of provincial Soviets, uh, or the chairman of national Soviet is the presidencies. So the presidencies the presidencies take the roles of chairman of the national Soviet as well as minister of military and minister of foreign affairs. So the presidency or triumvirate presidency is in charge of three duties for the four duties because the president is so good. So four duties, it's the chairman of the Soviet National Soviet, chairman of the National Soviet, um, minister of foreign affairs, minister of military, and the presidential role. So the triumvirate president is in charge of for provincial Soviet. Uh, the chairman, the chairman role is in charge of overseeing the provincial Soviet and other things which chairmen can do for the province, is to ensure discipline and in cooperation and other things. I don't know, but yeah, the, the chairman of but yeah, the local Soviet and provincial Soviet shouldn't be that different. But the only difference is that the provincial Soviet is at a higher phase. Oh yeah, the chairman of the administration of local Soviet should last for 1 year. The administration of provincial Soviet should last for 2 years. The administration of national Soviet should last for 4 years. So the administrators of local Soviet can work can work in administration roles for 2 years. After 2 years, there's a new election, a new randomization, so that there's a change, or there should be a change, like randomize and nomination, nomination. So for National Soviet, it's 4 years. Uh, the administrators of National Soviet work in National Soviet for 4 years, meaning the ministers, the presidency, uh, what else? I don't know, but the ministers, not the ministers, the deputy ministers, the presidency. Uh, I don't know how many levels of administrators and national government. But national government should have 4 years of working for the people, each role, each person in a role has 4 years. So meaning that when a new president come in, another president has to come out. Like after 4 years, a new presidency, a new president. But for three presidents, when one president comes out, the other two are left behind. Then a third one comes in through nomination and elections, popular elections. Like these three presidents have to finish their terms, and these two presidents have to finish their terms as well. Instead of like having one and then removing the others as well. You have three presidents, and then when one goes out, the others are left behind. Then another comes in, and then this one goes out, the two are left behind, and then another comes in, and then this one goes out, then left behind. See? So the two presidents have to continue. And yeah, but the ministers don't have to do. The ministers are just minister and then deputy minister and then other ministers below it. But there's no triumvirate ministers. It's just minister, deputy minister, second deputy minister, something. But there's no triumvirate in ministers. There's only triumvirate in national president. There's no triumvirate in presidents. Then the president has to be three presidents instead of one. Like two, it's to it's to the reason why they should three presidents is to divide labor, or to make it easier for presidents to move around. Like instead of one president going from one country to another country, or domestic issues, like another president could be another country, another president could be another country, another president could be here and focusing on local issues. Another one can be focusing on international issues on the other side, and then another one local issues on the other side. But they don't have to be only focused on one thing. They could rotate, like another one goes to other side, another goes to other side, and then another one stays behind. Like they would rotate. It doesn't have to be one president doing one thing and then another doing one. It's different president. It's president just doing what they think it's possible for them to do at that moment, or what they discuss, or what they say. And also for executive orders, the executive orders should not just be one person deciding what the executive order should do. Like this executive order should go for 3 years. The executive order should go for 2 years. So a president can issue executive order, but that executive order should be something that stays for 2 years. If an executive order is issued, the executive if an executive order is issued, the three presidents, well, if an executive order is issued by one president, the two other presidents have to agree with it. Like the executive order or decree is not decided by one president, and then there's no there's no challenge, or there's no review, or it's just it's his own it's one person's opinion. Like the three presidents is to issue. If one president decides that it should be executive order, the other president should also support that executive order, or uh, they should uh, they should not contradict that executive order. So it's to make sure that the executive order is really important. It's not just what one person decides. It's something that the three people see it as a good option. So yeah, and the executive order lasts for 2 years. Like the executive order should not last for 100 years or many years. The executive order should last for 2 years because because the whole point is that the government should be the government the state should be governed by the people. So a, a president should not just issue what he or she thinks is important, but without the consent of the people. So, so yeah, it's uh, also like if if there will be maybe or when the constitution. So for constitutions, I was thinking that uh, the constitution should not last for many years. The constitution should last for at most 30 years or 25 years. So like 25 years, after 25 years, there should be a referendum of what should be improved or what should be removed or what should be changed or what should be added. So like the constitution must not stay for many years like without referendum. Every 25 years, a new referendum or a new constitution has to be implemented, or a new contract, social contract has to be implemented. So, including the policies, like the policies which have been placed many years ago, they should be reformed or re-implemented if they are still useful. If they're useful, they're re-implemented. If they're useless, they're discarded, they're removed. But for the policies which are 4 years or less than 4 years, those policies should remain. They should not be removed. But if policies are for more than 5 years, they should be implemented or discarded. If they're useful, implemented; useless, discarded. If policies are less than 4 years, during the referendum, if their policies are less than 5 years, 4 years, whatever, if they're less 4 years, they should not be changed. They should just remain the same. But if they are more than 5 years, they should be re- revised or re-implemented or discarded. If they're useless, discarded. So you see that this, like the constitution has to reflect the principles of living people, not the principles of the dead people. Like the people who lived many years ago should not be the ones that dictate what happens today. Like what happens today should be decided by people who are living today, or people who have been living for at least 25 years.